95% of people finish school without being able to speak a foreign language. By the end of this talk, you will have learned some strategies and tips that will help you boost your language learning. Hey everybody, welcome to my talk. This is Elisa Polese, and today I'm going to show you how can you learn any language or languages without struggling. Now, I'm guessing that for a lot of you, this is not the first time you have listened to tips about language learning. The first thing I would like to mention is that if you struggled with one or more languages in the past, it is not your fault. There is lots of information out there and it can be confusing. Often, that information overload stops you from achieving your goals. It's okay. If you ever wondered whether you can learn multiple languages at the same time without mixing them up, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can. With the right method, anyone can do it. There are so many apps that give you the impression that you're learning, but when it comes to speaking, no words come out of your mouth. Then there is the language material, which looks nice, but focuses on words you don't need when you start out. Or, when you're offered more than one language, the material is often copied from one language to another, which doesn't work because behind languages there are individual cultures and mentalities. Conversation topics are not the same. And what is easy and useful in one language is not necessarily useful and easy in another language. When behind a business there are only numbers and not a passion to share, help and learn, those who pay the price are the customers, the learners. If you ever thought one of the following: why do I not make progress? I know lots of grammar, but I can't speak. It's hard to find time to study. You're not alone. We have all been there at some point or another. The truth is that with the right method and tips, this won't happen. And that's what we are here for. I know you're interested in languages, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And there is probably a language that you want to learn or improve. Anyone can learn a language in a fun and efficient way. It's just about the method. Maybe you would like to learn or improve more than one language at the same time, but you're not sure whether it's a good idea. What I often say is that if you're already interested in more than one language and knowing them is important to you and to your life now, why wait for years before starting to do what you want to do today? I'm not saying that everyone should learn multiple languages at the same time. Just that for me, it's very important that you all know that there are clear advantages in doing so in terms of time and efficiency. I firmly believe that everyone should follow their passions and their dreams, and I'm here to help. My goal for this presentation is to help two types of people. For those who are beginners, you'll get strategies and tips on how to learn any language in a fun and efficient way. For more experienced learners, you'll get tips and tools on how to make your language learning process even more fun and faster. If you want to learn one or multiple languages and you follow my learning strategies and tips, I'm sure you will reach your goals. So, what's my story? I've loved languages. I've studied 24 languages myself and brought 13 of them to a teaching level. However, I was not born multilingual. In fact, I learned all my languages, apart from French and my native language, from the age of 20 onwards. Languages allowed me to get to know wonderful people that I wouldn't ever have met otherwise because of the language barrier. Learning languages also allows me to read and listen to contexts in different languages without needing translations. At the beginning, I didn't know how to learn languages in an efficient way, so I tried out many different methods. I also studied translation and interpreting, and I have a master in didactics. I've been teaching for 20 years now and experimented with different strategies, which help me understand what works, not only for me, but for everyone else. My greatest passion is to help people overcome their fears, dismantle their limiting beliefs about their ability to learn languages, and reach their language goals in a fast and interactive way. My biggest reward is seeing my students happy, laughing on the way of making their language dream come true. I've developed a method that enables people speak from the very first moment and learn multiple languages at the same time from the first lesson. I've also published a book, How to Become Fluent in Multiple Languages, and created the very first online multilingual course. I've taught at universities and in language schools, but now I prefer to help people by teaching online, writing language courses and books, and giving shops around the world. Now let me tell you a quick story. Up to a certain point in my life, it happened to me many times that I would study a language for a while, but then I stopped because I was feeling overwhelmed because of all the other things I was doing, and I chose to give it up. I would feel a bit more relaxed for some days, but in the back of my mind, I wasn't feeling more relaxed. I was feeling frustrated because I wanted to be able to speak that language. Then I understood something. If you walked for a mile every day, how many miles would you have walked in 1 year? 365 miles. The same happens with languages. You don't have to study for hours every day, but if you studied even just a bit every day, it would take you much further than studying intensively for a couple of weeks and then leaving everything because it's not sustainable. Now I study for at least 5 minutes every day, and everyone has 5 minutes. The language or languages I want to improve. In this way, I'm sure I'm moving forward every day, which keeps me motivated. And the fact that my daily goal is really sustainable gives me certainty that no matter what, I will get better and better without feeling overwhelmed. This doesn't mean that I never do more than 5 minutes. Just that often the hardest part is to start, because we think that to see results we must study for hours at a time. This is not true. Small steps will take us much further than as if we studied once in a while. I would like to share some other strategies with you. I've spoken to thousands of people trying to understand why they get stuck with their language learning so that I can help them. A recurrent story was that they would study a language a lot, but they felt it difficult to speak the language. Then I would ask, how often do you speak it? And the answer was almost always, never. It's like wanting to learn how to drive by reading the manual. Make sure you practice the skill you want to improve. If your aim is speaking, you must speak. You can do many things to make it easier though. Another recurrent story was that they would concentrate on one language and forget previous ones. To explain this point, let's have a look at why people normally mix languages up. 1. They speak or learn one language much more than others, so the brain goes back to the more frequently used language. 2. They rarely speak these languages. 3. They know one of the languages very well and the others very little or much less, and they don't practice the new ones. 4. They are not used to switching languages. 5. The language features of one or more languages are not yet clear. The truth is that the problem is not the fact that you learn them at the same time, but the fact that you don't use them. And this is why multilingual learning can be very powerful and why multilingual lessons are so effective. You learn a new language or languages and you don't forget the previous ones. I think you can agree with me that each of us is unique and enjoys different things, or the same things in different ways. If you do things you enjoy, you are much more likely to keep doing them. The same applies to language learning. If you use a book you don't enjoy, speak or read about things which don't interest you, or watch or listen to things that you find boring, you are much more likely to give up before you learn the languages you wanted to learn so much. Do what you love. If you really enjoy singing, please sing. If you love reading, please do so. If you love series, watch them, and so on. Languages are systems, so each part of the language is connected to the rest, and every little thing you learn will make sense in the end. As long as you don't expect to understand everything straight away, you can start having fun with the language right now, maybe not during this talk. Of course, depending on the level of the language you want to learn, some activities suit you better than others. But carrying out a boring activity at the right level will not increase our chances of sticking to it. When I started my learning journey many years ago, it used to take me much longer to speak a language. I would study a lot, but I wasn't happy with the results. Then I found out that focusing on the right things is as important as studying 5 minutes every day. Using apps which focus on vocabulary can be very useful as long as vocabulary taught is exactly what you would use when you speak that language. This means that if you're a beginner and you just learn names of animals, probably not going to have a conversation or a very, very interesting conversation. Notice in which situation you speak a language and learn the words which are relevant to you and to your life. Learn that first, and then you can learn the rest later on as and if you need it. Single words are not everything. Even more important are recurrent chunks of words. For example, last week, next year, as opposed to learning single words last and year. Because in some languages you just can't put them together. Recurrent language structures normally containing verbs, and once you know them, you can just replace 1 or 2 words to build a new sentence. For example, at the beginner level, I'd like an ice cream, a ticket, a pizza, or I want you to the cinema, to the restaurant, to the beach. Not everything will be perfect, but it's never perfect at the beginning. But you can start speaking. At a higher level, if I had time, money, etc., I would buy, go, travel. Language structures are what will make you an independent learner and speak in any situation. Motivation is what makes us start, and this is very important. But has it ever happened to you that you wanted to study in the evening after work, and then in the end you felt so exhausted that you didn't do it? Or you had too many things to do, or you just had too many things on your mind? Most of our actions are automatic, like driving and talking, brushing your teeth, and also many tasks at work are automatic. What is important is not only that you start, but it's that did you create a habit and a routine. And things which seem to be very difficult at the beginning become effortless. What I did, for example, using an app which helped me to keep a routine was that I could increase my routines from one, which seemed to be very difficult at the beginning, to 20 in 1 week. So I think it's just a matter of habit and trying to do it. Decide in a doable amount of time to start, and choose a time of the day where you're not likely to be interrupted. A very important thing is that you find a trigger which will help you stick to this habit. As adults, we often forget that we were all students once. We can perform normally in our daily life, but when it comes to speaking a new language, we feel as if we knew nothing. And that it's frustrating. We expect to know everything, and we may even get angry when we don't remember a certain word, or we're not performing as well as we hoped. When we are stressed, we cannot think clearly. And so it's very important to remember that when we are in a learning phase. How can we perform well if we are stressed and we treat ourselves worse than we would treat a friend? Be open to learning, treat yourself kindly, and be aware that we all have to go through a phase where we cannot speak as much as we would like in order to grow and learn. Have you ever set a goal that you couldn't keep up with and you preferred to let the stress go? This is what happens to many people, not only in the language field. Thinking in terms of step is very important. One step at a time, and you will be closer to your goal. Don't look at the mountain in front of you. Concentrate on what you can do now to be closer to your goal. Imagine your first tennis lesson. Your teacher explains to you in detail all the movements you should and you should not do. Could you apply them at the same time? No. Focus on one skill at a time. I don't know whether you know the difference between accuracy and fluency. And think about the fact that in social situations, people talk to each other to communicate and not to spot mistakes. And if they do, they're not the people you want to be talking to. Maybe you're wondering how you can learn multiple languages at the same time without mixing them up. It's very easy. It's very important to learn your languages separately, uh, even just for a small amount of time. But it's very important to compare the languages so that you can have a clear idea of the recurrent features of the languages. And this is very important if you want to keep the languages separate in your brain and speed up your learning process. It is also important to the moments in which you switch between languages to get used to speaking multiple languages without mixing them up. Now I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you are excited about what we talked about? Now that we are done with theory, it's on to the 3-hour practical. Just joking. It's just impossible to tell you everything in 30-minute presentation, but I try to cover as much as possible. You can find more tips and strategies in my book, How to Become Fluent in Multiple Languages. I created a package for people who want to move forward and want to apply all these strategies. I can also put it later. May I share with you? It will just take you a few minutes. It's a special offer available only to the participants of the Langue Fest and only for a limited time. Enrollment to my language academy is open. This is a great opportunity if you want to have group lessons and to learn the most useful parts of the language so that you can speak from the very beginning. You will also receive a PDF of what was covered during the classes, as well as the opportunity to join my Facebook group so that you can practice, interact with me and other students. Language coaching and live webinars to address and solve any issues to make sure that you go forward. Daily mini lessons through audio or videos, and fun homework assignments, and the PDF for the mini lessons for revision. You will also get access to the tools I created to create and stick to the language routine, language learning planner, and a number of useful study routines. If you are interested, and I'd like to talk to you after the session, or you can contact me through my Facebook page and my website, or through my YouTube channel, and or you can talk to me anytime during Langue Fest. So now question time. Do you have any question?
Could you repeat number 9?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there is a difference between fluency and accuracy. Most people I meet, either students or friends, what they do is that they want to talk, they want to become fluent, but what they do is that they stop every second. And the problem is that if you want to be fluent, you should train 2 different skills separately. So when you train accuracy, you learn grammar, you do exercise, which if you want, or maybe even when you speak very slowly because you want to say everything right, which is never possible. So and the second thing that we can do is train fluency. When we train fluency, it's when mistakes shouldn't be corrected at all. Fluency means that you can speak, you feel free to speak, you're not afraid, and no one is going to interrupt you every 2 seconds, and you are not going to say every 2 seconds, is it correct? Yeah, this is a problem because when you do that, you're not training fluency, and these are 2 different skills. So this is what I said is that when you play tennis, for example, or any other sport, you learn, and then you imagine someone coming, talking to you and say, look, okay, put your hand like this and do that and do that. I cannot remember it. How can I do it? So this is the point of this slide is that when these are two different skills and should be trained separately. Yeah.
Do you have any tips on maintaining languages that you may have learned a few years ago so you don't forget them?
Yeah, sure. What level are you? So what level did you reach at the beginning? So what was the level
So
some years ago?
Fluency, so able to understand and have free conversations.
So I didn't get it. So intermediate or?
Intermediate to advanced, but say I haven't used it for 10 years.
Okay. And you feel too rusty when you speak. This is the thing.
Yeah, I still understand very well, but yeah.
Okay, so in that case, I would do two things. So since it's different whether you have learned a language and you stopped at the beginner level, or if you have reached an advanced level. In your case, it's more about a couple of things I said. First, try to get back to the language doing things you enjoy because you have the level for that. The second thing that you could do would be start speaking, but in that case really without treating yourself kindly. And even I know that it's painful, I went through it when you know that you were able to speak the language perfectly almost, and then at a certain point you feel so rusty that it seems as if you are less than A1. Okay, so and this is normal, but we should forget the pain and try to speak, because if you've reached on an advanced level, intermediate advanced level, I think that if you train for like 2-3 weeks in a row, you will almost get it back. Yeah, and you can focus on the other thing is that you should focus on. So in your case, really, I would do as much as you can that you enjoy, and for sure try to speak, because as I said, many people do everything but speak, and then they say, why can I not speak the language? So try. There are many ways, I'm sure you know, and if you don't know, you can ask me. Many ways you can practice, either for little money or for zero money, and then what you really need is just a bit to go back to your language and find and maybe understanding why you chose it, and yeah, welcoming a friend. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, going back to number 10, learning multiple languages at the same time. So in my particular case, I've been working on one for 5 minutes to an hour every day for a couple of years now. And I've thrown another one now into the mix, 5 minutes a day only, just to start, right? So that one I'm a complete beginner. And what if I want to throw in a third one, right? Like, what do you suggest in terms of learning multiple languages at the same time? Do them back to back? Do the more comfortable one first and the new one second, or does it matter?
Which one you do first doesn't matter, in the sense that it depends. What I think that what really brings you forward is doing at least 5 minutes every day of each of those languages. Or if you are at a more advanced level, one of those languages, maybe you can leave it for 1 or 2 days if you don't have the time, and then do it. The most important part is to take care of the language you speak less. Because the other ones you can improve them, and it depends. Are they different families? I guess. Yeah. The order is not important. The most important thing is you practice them. This is the most important. The second is that I don't know whether some of them belong to the same family.
Dutch and Portuguese.
Yeah. Okay. But okay, they are far enough not really to mix them up. But maybe if they are not. So and the order is really not important. Some people prefer to start with a language they feel less threatening. Some other people prefer to start with a language. Okay, I'll do the most difficult one first. Doesn't matter. The important thing is to practice them. And I always say, when people ask me how many languages at the same time, I reach a moment, I don't do it all the time, okay? But I reach a moment where I had the time and I study 13 languages every day, okay? But it's, of course, it's not possible every day, okay? So now it's more like 2, 3, 4, according in this period, for example. But as I said, when on days where I don't have time, also just 5 minutes. This really makes a difference, especially in the languages you don't speak very well yet.
Yeah, I wanted to know for instance, in my case, the way I see languages is that when I learn one, I really want to get fluent, and I go until I'm fluent, and then I can pass to another one, or at least fluent enough to, like B2 or something like that. But then I'm just wondering, how is it possible to do that with more than, like, for instance, that now I'm at 3 languages, and how is it possible to do that with more? Because I know right now, like, let's say in your personal life you use one, then at school you use another one, then you travel, you use another one, you travel in countries where they speak that language, or you manage your life in terms of hobbies or this, and you get friends and stuff. I'm just wondering, is it possible to get to like 6 languages and use them every day?
Two questions. The first one, where do you live?
Here.
Okay. So it's international enough to be able to practice them. And the other thing is that we often forget, two things. I will go back to the most important one for you in 1 second. So many people forget that we do things, different things every day, all day. And many people think, how can I learn more languages, more than 1 language at the same time? But I mean, if you go to work and they tell you, okay, now you should learn that program, but also that one. Would you say, no, I first have to learn that one, and then I will start thinking about the second one? No. So we don't know, but we learn and do different things all the time. We learn them at the same time. We just don't know we do. And so this is the first thing I wanted to say. And about, it depends on why you are learning those languages, or why you want to add more languages. I think it's always possible to add new languages as long as first you have 5 minutes for them every day. The ones I'm always talking about beginner level. For example, languages I speak fluently, I don't need to train them every day. Okay, so otherwise, but and then so why do you want to learn them? So why do you want to add new ones?
What I like is the culture, and to use it to connect with people that I couldn't connect with without this language.
Yeah.
So
why
because
don't you
it's so
start?
because it's so cultural, I just feel that exactly I have to immerse myself in it. I have to watch TV, to listen to the music, to travel to these places, and I feel it would be hard to have, like, many languages that you're doing that with.
It depends. It depends. Of course, each of us has only 24 hours, and you can decide what to do with that. And of course, we all have busy lives, but we have so many moments, so many moments that we waste, either going to work or because we feel tired, we want a break.
Waste.
So there are so many, or we do the dishes. So there are so many moments where you can. I don't know. I didn't have time to talk about that. But there is also something called the passive learning and active learning. With passive, I don't mean that you sleep and you remember. For me, to me, it doesn't work. Not for maybe for other people it works, but I tried for me. And the thing is that passive learning means that. I don't know. I want to tell you a story, super short. When I went to the UK, I couldn't speak. It was like for the first 3 months, I was like, I first learned French and then English, okay? And I went to the canteen and people would speak. I wouldn't understand the word. So I couldn't say anything, but I studied every day, and I listened to the radio every day. Even though I couldn't understand the word. I couldn't even understand when a word started and when a word finished. So, but the thing is that we forget that there is such a thing as a passive learning. When we listen to a big quantity of input, even while doing other things, our brain, of course, the more input, the better, but our brain starts separating the words, even if you don't understand the meaning of it. And I can assure it happened to me with different languages at the beginning, and even in just a very short time, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but it depends how much you listen to it. So even if you don't have the time to sit and study all those languages, if you're interested, of course, put maybe 1 or 2 at a time. If you're already doing 3, 4 other languages, I don't know how many languages you are studying. So it's important not to feel overwhelmed. If you feel overwhelmed, you stop. So add languages, but maybe at the beginning in a very soft way, in a way that you can really enjoy it.
Thank you. I'm just confused about how in 5 minutes you could practice usefully. Have you give us an example?
Yeah, many examples. So in the book, I describe many activities you can do, but then so I try to summarize some of the activities. It depends on your level. If your level is already intermediate, you can do anything. You can watch a couple of minutes of a podcast. But the most important part of those 5 minutes is that if you start thinking about what to do during those 5 minutes, the 5 minutes are gone. So what you should do is to take really a couple of hours only once every couple of months, where you gather things that you would like to practice with. For example, what I did was I found a certain amount of podcasts I thought I might enjoy for certain languages, or I made a bit of research so that I had already a list of things. And when I had my 5 minutes, I only had to click. So what I do, for example, either I listen to a podcast, or I watch a video, or what I think is very effective, but I know that it's a bit more difficult and maybe for some people boring. I like to I previously I make lists with the words that everyone needs. For example, there are words which are chunks of words which are important only to you, because you have a specific area of interest. But there are words that everyone uses. Last week, this week, next month, yesterday, today. Those words, we all always need them, and there is no way around it. Okay, only if there are languages where you don't have to use them. But otherwise, it's I make such lists so that and in my 5 minutes, if they are ready, I would use them, because once you have, I talked about language structures, when you have a structure in your mind, you have already learned it, you can play with words and try to say something which is meaningful to you. Sometimes I do something a bit stupid, maybe. I have a very good friend, and not very often, otherwise he wouldn't be a good friend anymore. I added him to a group, just to say, I said that you don't have to correct anything. I just would like to write one sentence once in a while to practice, but it's more like the idea that I'm writing to someone, because writing sentences on your own can be a bit boring. But if you imagine that you're writing to someone, you can write your own sentences with this list of useful words. When I say words, really, I almost never mean a single word, but and something else. What other things you can do? What I do, and I really love it. I choose a book I think is really good. And for me, a book which is really good, it's a communicative book. I don't want to start speaking the language at chapter 20. And I don't want to learn how to go through the customs, okay? Because I wouldn't understand all the other questions they want to ask me. But what I would do would be, I have a book, and I like the idea of knowing when I will be done. Because the idea of having a book and seeing such a book and saying, okay, in 2 years' time, I look at the pages, and I either decide to do either a certain amount of time every day, or a certain amount, not a certain amount, or 1 page per day. And like this, I finished my Greek book, because I started every day, no exception, 1 page. After 3 months, I finished my book. Yeah, so it's a and when I say 5 minutes, then you take the book you believe in, you study it for 5 minutes, and that's it. It's also okay. Because when we want to do too much, if we only have, I said that it's not that I always do 5 minutes, but there are days where you don't have more than 5 minutes. And that's okay. As I said, the problem is that we often think, okay, no, I cannot do it today. I promise I will do it tomorrow. Then tomorrow you say, no, I will do it this weekend. And then the weekend comes and you don't do it. And then, so I say you, but actually I'm talking also about myself in the past. And this is why I understood that it's really very important. It's better 5 minutes, and there are plenty of activities that you can do. You don't have to finish something, but you have to do something meaningful.
What is the key to prevent mixing up similar languages like Romance languages like Spanish and
Yeah.
Portuguese and Italian?
You focus on language features. Language features are recurrent patterns. For example, in Italian, words almost never end with a consonant. So you know that. You either a multilingual teacher told you that, or you know that, and then if you have it clear in your mind, you are about to say pensar. No, it cannot be Italian. So you add the vowel at least. You know that the endings are are, ere, ire, so you will say pensare. So it's an easy example, but there are many others. So you focus. You don't focus on words which are the same. There is no need of focusing words which are the same. We focus on differences. So, for example, you know that a word like anche, también. Yeah? So you focus on things that you know that you are going to use. This is again like focus on the things that you know that you use daily. I will not focus on the fact that it's maybe a very complicated word. It's different in one language on another. I will, if I know that maybe, for example, in my case, I love talking about other mentalities and culture. Okay, if I have the level for that, or if I want to talk about it at a lower level, I will focus on the words which would impede communication. For example, words which are completely different, and then you know very well, if you know Italian and Spanish, I don't know whether that, or French, I don't know, that there are many words that even if you don't say properly, other people would understand. So the important to focus on differences and language features. Language features are, for example, the fact that in many verbs in Spanish you have like pienso, or you have some words like this, cierto, and in Italian is penso, certo. So you have ie, which is then so ie, and then it's e. Or for example, duermo, ue, so ue, o, dormo. So you have language features, and if you know them, then you try to, if you don't know the word. No, I do not say that you're going to do it all the time. You can try to think, okay, I can remember dormo, dormo, dormo. It cannot be dormo, duermo, okay? So trying to do something like that.
I'm next.
Non, mais elles sont sur Amazon.
Well, yeah, that was one of my questions. The other one is, you mentioned passive learning. So when you're like a beginner, maybe barely A2, can you use passive learning to replace active learning for some of those days?
Yes, I know it's for some people it can be a bit intimidating to listen to something and not understanding a single word. I did it many times, and in order to get to an advanced level or an intermediate level, we must go through a beginner level. We don't like it. We are adults. We are not used to have people to say do that. Yeah. So the important part is so it works really. It's completely different, but actually I think it works much better for beginners than for intermediate students. Because what happens? Okay, two things. For beginners, it's very important because you can get used to the melody. You can start separating words in your mind. You can start understanding. You can become friend with the language. At the intermediate or advanced level, this is super useful if you want to revise vocabulary, and you don't have time. Or a language you knew before and you forgot, so you're a bit rusty. Because when you do that, important words always repeat themselves. So you will always find it. If you find what I do, for example, when I read a book, I don't look up words, because I know that if a word is important, it will come back. And seeing that word in one context, and again in another context, and then again in another context, will give you the meaning, and you don't have to look it up. If the word comes, you see this word once and never again, what's the point? I don't want to know it now. Then once I'm at an advanced level, then I can learn it, or if it's in my area of interest.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm having problem switching languages like I didn't have before. And Farsi is the last language I have learned, fluent, not written. But then I understand training daily is helping, and I couldn't. My point is that when I try to speak Farsi, my German comes out.
It's completely normal.
And
Completely normal.
I reached very comfortable level in German without thinking my mother tongue and so. And when I want to speak very basic at the Austrian butcher, I want to speak Farsi. I mean, I cannot control. Not I want. I cannot control. I stay like, and it's blank. So, besides daily practicing, do you have any tips?
Two questions. The first one. How often do you speak one and how often do you speak the other?
Not anymore.
You don't speak them.
Both of them, no.
Yeah. So
I'm reading and hearing, but not practicing with people.
Okay, this is really the reason why it happens, because our brain has limited infinity capacity, but also limited capacity. So as we I don't know whether Zach is here, but at a certain point our brain decides, this is not important. It's not really thrown away, but it's in a drawer much further away. And speaking, there are active activities and passive activities. Active is speaking and writing. If you want to write, if you don't want to speak all the time. But the important part is that what you write are not exercises. What you do is especially like you write your own thoughts, whatever you want to say. If you they are called productive activities because you produce something, and if you produce something, this is what helps you to speak afterwards. And if you read and listen, these are activities which will help you with understanding and not with speaking. They will help you with revising words, but they will not help you to speak. Unfortunately, it's like, as I said, it's like, I read the whole manual. Now I can drive a car. Maybe automatic a bit, but I drive the other with gears, and I can assure that it's impossible if you don't try. The first time you think, damn, this one, this thing. Yeah? So, and the other thing I could tell you is that
you know, I'm not surprised my German comes out and I cannot speak my Farsi, but I'm surprised of the opposite.
Because you have an emotional connection with the Farsi. You like it,
Probably,
and then it comes back because of course
People.
It's a language, okay, a foreign language, I like it, and it comes out.
Okay. So it's not surprising. Thank you.
No, it happens a lot. Okay. Thank you very much.